What's up, guys? I'm Chad Barnes, and welcome to the channel. Here, it's all about real car talk, from simple fixes to smart driving tips and keeping your ride in top shape. If that sounds good to you, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button, and make sure you watch all the way through. There's a lot of good stuff coming. Let's get to it.
Braking system brakes in Yeti do not cause special troubles. ABS is quite successful, breakdowns are rare and relate primarily to wiring to sensors. Popular malfunctions are connected with jamming of the handbrake mechanism in the rear caliper. It is screwed here. Most of the issues appear in cars with 1.8L engine. They have an aluminum caliper. The front calipers in all versions hold up well, only the oldest copies have worn dust covers and guides. It is a pity only that for the version with 1.2 engine the size of discs was cut to a minimum. 280mm for the car weighing 1,400 kilograms is not enough. Hence a small resource, and it is not difficult to overheat brakes in mountains. In this connection the choice of pads becomes an extremely responsible business. But also in cars with more powerful motors 1.4 and 1.8 discs with a diameter of 288 and 312mm are also unremarkable, and many owners are engaged in refinement of brakes. There is a huge choice of brakes in the coplanar cars. Detail original price of non-original 2 brake system front brake pads 703185 296 Palenga 108 brake pads rear 7 114 83 535 Phoenix 1 253 brake disc front 280 by 22 5 666 86 469 Febby 3 961 brake disc rear 253 by 10 6 455 84 787 Febby 3 300 suspension. There are no global questions to the suspension. In front at mileage up to 100 and a careful driver will require replacement except for stabilizer struts of transverse stability. The traditional pain point of cars on the platform PQ46, the rear silent block of a front lever, on Skoda serves more than usual. You can put even very inexpensive substitutes and they will still serve well. The first problems occur, as a rule, when the mileage is under 100,000. Unfortunately, the rear suspension starts tapping after 60 to 70,000 even with careful operation. There are no special problems with hub bearings. Sometimes the springs in the rear suspension break, and even then on the cars of the first editions. In general, Yeti on original wheels and suspension with a package for bad roads is a surprisingly successful option for everyone who regularly drives on such roads. Detail original price of non-original 2 suspension and transmission front LM 18831 Lemford 9069 Febby 7017 rear support arm 5 229 Lemford 2655 Febby 3051 front shock absorber 2351 Monroe 9667 Boge 9936 ball bearing steel 8496 Lemford 3193 AS metal 1 213 front hub 16671 FAG 9663 SKF 9554 rear transverse lower arm outer silent block 1 962 Febby 902 SKF 976 steering. The steering on the Yeti is with a third generation electric rack. It can be made by ZF, Bosch or Volkswagen, but all of them have similar problems. On cars with 1.8 engine after 120 to 150,000 there are tapping, and when opening the rack you can often see surface corrosion of the rod even with intact dust covers. The case usually does not come to serious repair if in time to carry out preventive. Major breakdowns occur when the dust covers are depressurized or the electronics fail due to problems with the wiring or torque sensor. The resource of lugs and rods is good, usually more than 70,000 kilometers. Transmission. Common problems. Drives do not require any attention. Internal ball joints are traditionally not changed separately. It is worth noting only corrosion of splines of angle clutch in all-wheel drive versions, and that is rare. Manual boxes. Manual boxes mean the presence of two-mass flywheel with unpredictable resource. If desired, it is possible to put a custom one and in the future to put clutches from old VR6 motors. The decision is justified. Custom will cost about the same price as the original flywheel and now even cheaper. There are rare complaints about welded differential satellites and wear of synchronizers. With time the selectivity of the shift mechanism deteriorates. Automatic gearboxes. There are three variants of automated gearboxes. With motors 1, 2 and 1, 4 TSI, and also diesel 1, 6 TDI. Put 7-speed robot DSG DQ200 with 1, 8 TSI and diesels 2, 0 is combined 6-speed DQ250. And the third and the most desirable is a conventional hydro-mechanical automatic Aisin TF60 SC in a set with atmospheric motors 1, 6. Why was Yeti treated so cautiously at first? The thing is that at the start of sales only TSI turbo engines and only DSG boxes were offered, and in 2010 this combination already had not the best reputation. 7-speed DQ200 at that time was known as a set of horror stories. Constant problems with mechatronic, and some of them because of engineering defects and some because of software. Any repair at that time cost hundreds of thousands of rubles. Mechatronic could only be replaced with a new one, clutch was killed easily, and its price also tended to 100,000 rubles. It is not surprising that owners of cars with such DSG filed lawsuits and eventually received a 5-year warranty, including on the boxes. In general, DSG turned out to be so ambiguous that even our separate material is devoted to its separate material cars after 2013 received updates of the automatic transmission, forks and mechatronic of a new design. And at the same time, new software for controlling the box. So in operation they do not differ from newer copies. Today, it is quite a successful variant of transmission, requiring, however, compliance with the rules of handling and understanding of the processes occurring in the box. For example, by analogy with mechanics, it is necessary to take care of a clutch and not to stand long with a brake pedal in a floor. It is better to include neutral. It is not necessary to get off the place with the pedal in the floor. If you follow the rules, the box will not present surprises. Resource of clutches at normal operation, from 120,000 kilometers and sometimes reaches 200 and more. The resource of 2-mass flywheel is less, it rarely withstands more than 150,000 kilometers. But the price of restoration of mechatronic for exchange now about 25,000 rubles, clutch usually a little more expensive. But there are offers and cheaper than 15,000. In the rest of the mechanical part everything is quite reliable, except that overloaded bearings and not very successful differential can fail, but with motors 1, 4 this kind of problems do not happen until mileage in 250 with more than 1,000. In general, DQ200 is now a good box with almost perfect diagnosability. The DQ250 transmission used with 1.8 TSI engines is inherently more reliable, but due to the complexity of the design, the cost of repairs can be higher. The use of a common oil bath for friction and mechatronics causes wear on the solenoids, even though there is dual oil filtration. However, DQ250 is more loyal to careless handling and with frequent oil changes, temperature control and timely repair of the dual mass flywheel is almost eternal. Diagnosing the box is also easy. Checking fork strokes and complete data on clutch and box operating temperatures is a great help when choosing a car. Problems with primary shaft bearings arise mainly when ignoring the knocking of a killed flywheel and overloading with torque in the case of tuning motors. What to say about the real automatic? About this box, too, we have already written and told what basically breaks in it. In the case of Yeti, everything is not so terrible. With the 1.6 engine, the automatic is very reliable and its main weak point is temperature and cooling system. Constant overheating combined with rare oil changes leads to damage to the hydraulic block and seals in its mechanical part. But even so, it is difficult to kill the box simply due to the strength of the design. Of course, you should not forget about maintenance. At least regular checking of oil for cleanliness and temperature control should become a habit. When buying, it is necessary to run the box both on cold and hot. Computer diagnostics in this case is very limited in possibilities, but you should not neglect it. When choosing Yeti with 1.6 engine and automatic, you should keep in mind that dynamics will be much worse than in cars with 1, 2 and DSG. If it is not crucial for you, the classic automatic transmission is an excellent option. All-wheel drive. Only the top versions of Yeti with 1.8 engines are entitled to all-wheel drive. All-wheel drive via the Haldex clutch has two weak points. Insufficient oil filtration and very small filling volume, which causes intensive oil contamination, especially if you constantly use all-wheel drive. The angle clutch is quite reliable, but only the 1.8 motor is forced easily and simply, and the nodes are not designed for increased loads. On older cars, sometimes the oil level in the angular reducer decreases and splines of intermediate shafts suffer. However, these are rather exceptions. Motors. Common problems: high temperatures but slow warming up, complexity of construction and poor unification, ubiquitous fittings. Unfortunately, the engines of this period have many weak points. After restyling, a relatively simple 1.6-litre atmospheric engine appeared, and the rest were modernized or replaced by analogs from new generations, but the complexity of the design has not gone anywhere. And in the spherical expansion tank there is a Koshcheva needle, a bag with silica gel, which is destroyed at 5 to 8 years of service. Gasoline engines before restyling are found mainly 1.2 TSI and 1.8 TSI. A little later they were joined by a 1.4 TSI motor. The 1.2 TSI engine with an output of 105 horsepower with the code CBZB belongs to the EA111 lineup. It is unique in its kind because it is the only engine with 8-valve cylinder head and direct injection. The engine uses cast iron liners, chain-driven timing and turbocharging with a liquid intercooler. From the beginning of production, the main problem was just the timing. It has a unique chain, which was used only on this motor, and at first its life was extremely short. Slips occurred already at 30 to 50,000 kilometers. The new mechanism of timing on motors produced since the end of 2011 is quite viable. The chain has been improved here, and everything has been replaced, including the star on the crankshaft, which is part of it. That is, the crankshaft here is also different. The tensioner was also changed, strengthening the ratchet. As a result, the life of timing on motors after modernization is 150 to 180,000. In the transitional 1.2 the chain has been modernized, but its resource is less than that of the new drive and does not exceed 120,000, and slips on the lower star still happen at looseness. The piston is initially successful, even with intercooler problems it holds up well. The intercooler suffers from infrequent antifreeze and oil changes and dirty filters and radiators. Sometimes the pump dies suddenly, which also guarantees problems with detonation and turbo overload. In the early years it was not uncommon for the turbine control valve flapper actuator to fail, purely electrically. As a result, the entire turbine had to be replaced. Now the motor actuator is even available on a popular Chinese online flea market. Cracks in the hot part of the turbine and souring of the control valve actuator stem appeared later. All this is also solved without replacing the whole assembly, but it is not cheap. Sometimes it is easier to buy a used hot part of the turbine. The 1.4 engine with 122 horsepower, Kaxa, is often found on Skoda of that period. It is also of EA111 family, with direct injection, but 16-valve, with a different cylinder head. Here, too, non-ideal timing, but it is treated easier, modernizing only the unit itself. And super low resource is almost never found, and after a relatively inexpensive replacement of the front cover, tensioner, stars, and chain, it can exceed 150,000 kilometers. To the intercooler and turbine here are about the same questions as in 1.2. However, the piston group in the 1.4 TSI without a large safety margin, as in the younger motor. And good work of all elements of the power system has a stronger effect on the life of the CPG. Detonation for this piston group is much more terrible and can lead to damage of pistons. In addition, the intake valves are heavily polluted after 80,000 mileage, causing a drop in power and the risk of scoring due to the ingress of coke under the rings or the valves themselves. An oil addiction due to the rings at mileage over 100 is common. In general, it is not a bad motor, the more so that very early versions were not put on Yeti. It requires a little more attention than 1.2, but its output is noticeably higher. The 152 horsepower 1.8 TSI CDAB was fitted to the car until the end of production. It belongs to the EA888 Gen 2 series and has been extensively updated over the years. The first editions have a huge number of flaws, from failed piston groups and timing to balancer shafts and pumps. Read our article about these marvelous motors. After 2013, the engines received many updates, specifically new crankshafts, piston group, timing and crankcase ventilation, CVT systems, new pumps and fuel equipment. Unfortunately, this did not solve the timing problems completely. In addition, not very successful balancer shafts were retained and continued to cause trouble with VKG and timing. The piston group in general has been brought up to date, but excesses with it do happen, usually with overheating and VKG problems. It is better not to buy a car with this motor of early releases unless you are ready to spend on serious repair or reassembly of the motor or are not sure that these works were done before you. And there are two big temptations when buying such a car. First of all, it is all-wheel drive and the possibility of tuning up to 250 to 280 forces for relatively small sums. With such a motor, Yeti turns into an inexpensive lighter, it remains only to lower the suspension. But the expenses will be in line with the new status. In 2014, the model was equipped with EA211 engines in aluminum block with cast iron liners and belt-driven timing. These are atmospheric CWVA for 1.6 liters and 115 horsepower, and turbo engines 1.4 CZCA CZDA for 125 horsepower, and rare in our European 1.2 CYVB and 1.0 CHZD. A characteristic feature of almost all motors is a small oiling during the run-in period. After 100 to 120,000 pump leaks are possible, usually it is treated with a new set of gaskets. Regulation of timing replacement is overly optimistic, after 90,000 there are chances of breakage. It is better not to delay the replacement, because it is inexpensive. On supercharged motors, the hot part of the turbine is cracked and it is very likely that the stem of the control valve actuator is souring. In general, up to 200,000 motors pass with minimal oil appetite, even if the dealer oil is changed once in 15,000. Other copies manage to run more than 400,000 and there are usually no problems with wear of the piston and cylinder head. It is a pity that from the factory the engines were put only on front-wheel drive cars. Besides, for this generation of motors 1, for the power of 150 horsepower is absolutely adequate and does not affect the resource, but only the requirements to the quality of service increase. Yeti with such motors is a very good choice, they are already powerful enough, but economical and reliable. Diesel engines. There are very few diesel Yeti in Russia, they have not been officially delivered. There are variants with 2-liter engines of EA189 family, as well as with newer EA288 on cars from 2016. The extremely small number of diesel copies does not allow you to compile statistics on failures and peculiarities of operation, but from the experience of operation on other models of the Volkswagen concern, we can say that there are no special problems with them. Detail original price of non-original 2 engine radiator 22,861 Termal 6 260 AVA 10 411 timing chain 1, 2. TSI 13 349 Febi 7 499 Daco 4 590 chain tensioner 6 712 Stelox 2 241 Borshung 3 678 timing kit 1, 2 not available senior 17 263 BSG 12 363 to take or not to take. Restyled Yeti can certainly be considered for purchase, especially if there is a worthy copy with a motor of EA211 family and both with DSG and with a simple automatic. With versions on 1.8 liters everything is not so unambiguous. Motors of this family strongly raise the price of operation and risks. But it is very risky to buy a pre-restyling check, especially of early years. It will not be possible to solve the problems with the body with little blood, plus there may be unresolved problems in the mechanical part. In conclusion, the Skoda Yeti stands out as a versatile and reliable choice in the compact SUV market. With its successful restyling, the vehicle not only boasts an impressive mileage but also offers a safe and efficient 1.6-liter engine, alongside the dynamic 1.2-liter option and the smooth DSG transmission. For enthusiasts looking to elevate their driving experience, the potential for tuning up to 300 horsepower adds an exciting dimension to this already capable vehicle. Whether you prioritize safety, efficiency, or performance, the Skoda Yeti delivers on all fronts, making it a worthy contender for anyone in the market for a well-rounded SUV.